This is going to be a side-by-side comparison between the Silencerco Octane 9 suppressor and the Silencerco Osprey 9 suppressor. So starting out, the Octane 9 comes in this nylon pouch with Velcro retention. I mainly use this just to transport to the range, so it's pretty good in that aspect. And this is the suppressor. And the Osprey comes in this a little bit nicer of a pouch. I think it's Maxpedition. See the Silencerco logo on the pouch. Moly webbing on the back. So a little bit nicer of a pouch, but again, I just use it for transporting to the range. I don't know if they still ship it with this pouch, because I've had this suppressor for about 2 years, so they might have changed it. And this is the 9 Osprey. So, like I said, I've had this can for about maybe 2.5 years, and I got this can, this is the Octane 9, about 8 months ago. So, just starting out with some specs to compare the two. The Osprey is rated for obviously 9mm, it's a 9mm can, and 300 blackout subsonic. This is rated for 9mm, 357 SIG, and 300 blackout subsonic. This one is full auto rated, and the Osprey is not. The weight on the Osprey is 9.8 ounces, and the weight on the Octane is 10.8 ounces. So not too much of a difference, just a little bit. The Osprey is a shorter can. This is about 7 inches in length, where the Octane is about 7.5 inches in length. So this is about 1 inch shorter and a ounce lighter. So obviously they're totally two different designs. The Osprey is an eccentric design. That means that the baffle stack actually hangs below the center line of the bore, which allows for a little bit better sight clearance with just standard sights, whereas this Octane is just a traditional cylindrical suppressor. One key difference to note is that the Octane can be taken down for maintenance. I just cleaned it, so I'm not going to take it down right now, but you would just unscrew this and take out the booster assembly, and you would use this piston, and you'd use the teeth in the piston to gauge in these slots, and you just twist this off, and the whole baffle stack comes out for cleaning. So that's a nice feature. I like to be able to get in my cans and clean them. But this is a sealed design. The only way you'll be able to get into the suppressor and not void your warranty is sending it into Silencerco. So, but they have good customer service, so I really wouldn't worry about that too much. You're not really going to fill up a 9mm can unless you're shooting like lead reloads or something like that. So it's really critical on a 22 suppressor. Not so much on centerfire suppressors. So, as far as sound quality between the two, honestly, they're pretty much identical. I do notice a little bit more of a first round pop with the Osprey than the Octane. That's just my perception. And I do notice this is just a hair quieter. That's also just my perception, but according to Silencerco, the muzzle average decibel reading is 127 for both cans. So according to Silencerco, they're identical. To me, this one's just a little bit quieter. But then again, you know, it's really what it sounds like in person what matters, and they both sound really good to the shooter's ear, so I'm happy with both of them. One thing I do want to mention though is after a couple hundred rounds, every once in a while this front piece, I guess from the heat and constant shooting, will sometimes just start working itself loose, and then I'll have to go back and make sure it's tight. It doesn't happen that often. It's only happened a couple times, and when I reassemble this, I always make sure I crank it down, but I guess it's just from the heat of constant shooting. It's not a big deal, just check every once in a while. Just like when your suppressor starts to walk off the threads, you always want to make sure that it's tight after a mag or two. With this one, it's pretty easy to see if it's correctly on the suppressor, because you know, if you align it correctly and then you start seeing it tilting, then you know it's starting to walk off the threads, and then you just tighten it back up. So that's one nice thing, it's easy to see with this. So I'll show you what it looks like on the host weapons. First one, this is my Glock 17, it's unloaded, it's a Gen 3. The main reason I got this suppressor, I was in the market for another 9mm suppressor, is because I wanted something to run on my Glock 17 with the Surefire X300 Ultra weapon light on it, because when I try to put my Osprey on the gun, the suppressor kept hitting the bezel of the flashlight, and you couldn't screw it on. So I wanted something that had a little bit more clearance, and I like Silencerco's product, so I picked up an Octane. I'll show you what it looks like. So this is what it looks like on a Glock 17 Gen 3. I do have raised and adjustable Meprolite night sights, and it's nice because I can see over the can with these sights. So that's what it looks like on my Glock. I'll show you the Osprey on my other host firearm. This is my SIG P226 Combat threaded barrel. This is unloaded, by the way. And this is what it looks like on the SIG. It just lines up with the top of the suppressor, just barely. And these are fairly low profile sights, so just a little bit raised sights, it'll go right over. So that's the advantage with the Osprey suppressor. And when you first, or if you're changing host firearms, or when you first get the suppressor and you go to put it on, it may be canted when you first screw it on to the threaded barrel. So they have this cam lever right there, and you just pull that out and then just align it and then close it, and it'll lock it into place. So basically index it with that pistol that you're using it on. So that's what it looks like on my SIG. So between the two, I would say my favorite would be the Octane, mainly because of the disassembly feature. I just like being able to get into my suppressors, even though it's not a big deal on centerfire cans. It just feels a little bit more of a heavy duty suppressor. I mean, this is full auto rated, and this one isn't. So they're both nice suppressors. I do like the look of this one. It's kind of cool. It's like a tombstone shape. So I have a 1911 that I'm gonna get a suppressor for, and so I'm trying to decide between a Osprey 45 and a Octane 45, and I'm kind of leaning to the Octane, but who knows? Maybe I might get both. I don't know. So yeah, that's the main difference between these two suppressors. I'll give you a little close up of each one. So that's the Osprey suppressor. Silencerco's logo you can see on the front. The Octane is just a really standard suppressor look, which some people may like. I like it. I kind of like this one. Looks a little futuristic, but I like this one too. So yeah, if you have any questions about either of these suppressors, feel free to leave a comment or send me a message. Thanks.